Welcome back. Today we are going to discuss newspaper articles. The first article will be Will a National Judiciary Work? This article talks about the most debated topic, that is All India Judicial Services. In short form, you can write as AIJS. Okay, it has been in debate since 2017, or actually you can say that the debate has been since 1958. Okay, then why it is in news recently? Because many experts and government also want to establish this all India judicial services. But who can actually establish this all India judicial services? Who has power? That is parliament has power. Okay, from where this parliament got this power? Who has given this power? That is 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. It gave power to the parliament to create new all India services, which includes AIJS. What is AIJS? All India Judicial Services. Okay, fine. You know this thing now. Okay, means see, this amendment came in 1976, right? Means before this amendment to come, there are some recommendations which pressurized for the establishment of AIJS. What is this AIJS? All India Judicial Services. Okay, means what are those recommendations? Have given clue here. 1958. In 1958, what happened? 14th report of LCI. What is this LCI? Law Commission of India has recommended for the establishment of AIJS. After this, what happened? 1961. What happened? In the Conference of Chief Justice, this conference also recommended for the establishment of AIJS. After this, what happened? In 1976, Swaran Singh Committee also recommended for the AIJS, All India Judicial Services, when it was dealing with what? It was dealing with the question of organizing judicial services at all India level. Okay, because of these three things, the Constitutional Amendment Act, 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act came into force, and these gave power to the parliament. Okay, now it was in 1976, right, in news. Why again it is in news? Because there are many reasons. Okay, why it is in news means someone is feeling there is need, country is feeling there is need for the all India judicial services, right? Then what are those needs? Means we all know that there is increasing pendency in cases, right? Means in lower courts 87.3% of cases are pending. These lower courts include district courts and subordinate courts, right? Okay, in district courts alone there are 38.15 million cases pending. Okay, 38.15 million means how much? 3.8 crores, almost 3.815 crores cases are pending. These many cases are pending in district courts alone. Why it is pendency? Is there this much huge pendency? Why? Because of vacancies. Okay, there are more than 5,000 vacancies in district and subordinate courts all over India. So why it is vacancy is there means, see, pendency is there means what, the vacancies are increasing. Why? Who is filling these vacancies? That is the state government and high court, right? Means there is something wrong in this mechanism. Okay, these loopholes being used for political purpose, right? That led to the delays and inefficiencies. Okay, that's why the vacancies are there, because of the loopholes in the mechanism that led to the delays and efficiencies. These led to the increase in pendency cases. Okay, these are the 2 points definitely you should write if UPSC asks the need for this bill, whatever. The what are the other points? See, because the pendency, this vacancy is not only because of this is also because of people are not showing interest in joining judicial services, right? Have you heard of anybody preparing very rigorously for becoming district judge or subordinate judge like that? It's not like nobody is preparing. Yes, there are people who are preparing, but the percentage of them is very less. Okay, because very less, the talented people are not being attracted in this system. Why? Because they know that the system is suffering from loopholes, mechanisms, delays, inefficiency, etc., etc. So why the talented person will come here? He will not come. He'll go and become some lawyer under one company. Okay, company will pay him a lot, and he will be defending companies. So the multi-talented people are not joining the judiciary. Another thing is here only we said that there is delays, ineffectiveness, political issues, etc., etc., and vacancies, pendency, all these things. But why it is in all over India? Because every state is different, right? Why in every state it is like that? Because there is no uniform law. Each state follows its own law, right? In appointing means own procedure in regarding to reservation, in regarding to appointment. Okay, though the appointment process has been defined in article, which article? 233. So varying procedures, you can say, has hampered to bring uniformity in judiciary. So these are the four points you can say that there is need for, by say there is need for this AIJS, All India Judicial Services. But after this, what you have to write? How this AIJS will enable to overcome these issues. Because now what happens? Now the appointment and everything will become uniform in nature, right? Because there will be one body which will conduct every year, like UPSC. Every year it will conduct exam and it will fill the vacancies. The first thing, because one national body like UPSC conducts. Now you see, for UPSC, IITN is competing, NITN is competing, AIMS guy is competing. All good talented people are competing for the UPSC. Why? Because they know that UPSC is credible body and it is a constitutional body. Okay, and there is no malpractices happening Okay, they are upholding the integrity, and there is a transparency. Okay, so the talented people will be attracted due to this process. With the talented people getting attracted, what happens? They're dealing with the cases, means the efficiency in dealing with the cases will increase, so the pendency rate will decrease. Now because there will be a single law, right? Okay, that is what all India Judicial Services, uh, for every state the appointment will be taken care by the body, okay, one national body. Okay, so what happens here? Cooperative, because of unified judicial system, cooperative federalism principles will be upheld. So these 4 points you can write, what changes it can bring, means this is the 4 points you can write. After that, definitely you should write that, see, these are the, what changes means these are the benefits also, right? These are the advantages also, but there are disadvantages also that you should definitely mention. If UPSC asks what are the those disadvantages, because see, for everything each coin has two sides, right? One side it can be good, one side bad. The here the bad thing is, see, under article 233, right? This one, governor of the state had a role, and high court has a role in the appointing, transfer, promotion of district judge. Now this will be transferred to central government, or central government based body. What happening here? The rights of the state, okay, governor will appoint, right? But governor, what article 164 says, governor will act on the aid and advice of the council of ministers, means state government, right? So the act, so the rights are taken away from the state to the central government. So what does it mean? It is infringement of federalism, right? Okay, so this will violate the federalism. Another thing is, see, in every state they have particular languages, okay, in districts, especially unlike in what you have read in what you call that polity Lakshmikant, in official language chapter, okay, this official language chapter deals with what? It deals with the languages used in high court and supreme court. But in district and subordinate courts, okay, the proceedings and the judgment will take place in local language. If this all India Judicial Service is established, when one Bihar person or one Himachal person posted in Andhra Pradesh, what happens? How he will learn Telugu? For him, he cannot write Telugu. He cannot read Telugu. Again, he have to undergo the process of training at least 3-4 years to understand Telugu, to write Telugu judgments, right? So it becomes a very again hectic one problem. Another problem is the reservation problem is there, because in some states some people are recognized as OBC. Okay, in the state only, in the state list the OBC they have recognized as a OBC. But when it come to the central government jobs, the central government list, in the central government list these people are not recognized as a OBC, so that conflict will be there. Okay, another thing is, see, now you are saying that we will make it to all India Judicial Services for the district judge, okay. Then if you make these people, if you are recruiting these people directly, then what about the subordinate court judges? Then how they will get promotions? Okay, then subordinate judge will retire as a subordinate judge only, because promotions will become very difficult now. And one more thing is, see, laws, right? Laws are followed based on one of the parameter that influences laws is what is local norms and traditions. Like you take example of Nagaland or entire northeast or any tribal areas. Okay, these in these areas the local norms and tradition highly influences the laws. Okay, but this is a national exam. After clearing national exam, this guy will be posted in local areas. Okay, but if he is not knowing these local laws when he is implementing the justice, then it will create a problem, right? So these are the disadvantages you should know. Now the solution, what is the solution then? Shall we not come up with this idea of all India judicial service? Okay, first thing, first, actually, there is a gray area that should be rectified. Which body is going to be appointing these district judges under all India judicial services? That should be made clear. That should be National Judicial Service Commission, like a UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. There should be National Judicial Service Commission. This thing I am not saying. Okay, there is one report, 116 LCI report. What is this LCI? Law Commission of India report. It says that there should be a body, that is National Judicial Service of Commission, to oversee the appointments, promotions, transfers and everything. And one more thing is, this law, all India judicial services, should be implemented with the concurrence, not with the consultation. See, consultation is different from the concurrence. With the concurrence of state and high court, so that in future there should not be any problem arising. And there is one committee established, that is National Commission to review the working of the constitution. It has recommended that we should wait and watch before implementing, because all before recommendations are very old recommendations. Okay, in this modern world, whether it will be suitable or not, we should wait and watch. Like this, there are some recommendations. You can conclude like this and you can end the answer. Okay, this is what about this article. Coming to the our Didi. You know, right, who is our Didi? That is West Bengal CM. Okay, our Didi says that PM to cut the tax on petrol and diesel. Okay, we all know that petrol and diesel rates are increasing. Okay, increased also. How much it has increased? In many states, 1 liter became 105 rupees. Okay, so you should know that how come, what actually decides the petroleum prices or diesel prices. You should know this. Those prices are what will decide. First thing is crude oil price in international market. Okay, the second one is freight and processing charges, because after getting this crude oil you cannot directly put into your vehicle, right? You should first process, because this is crude, you should refine it. Okay, after for processing, this is refined, and this is freight, means transportation. Okay, these charges will be there. Okay, on in this 105 rupees, and these charges will be there. After this, then there will be excise duty. Excise duty on whom? Means if you are selling these refined oil to the dealer, okay, here the central government will put excise duties and dealer will buy it. After that, dealer will not sell, he is not doing any charity, right? Okay, dealer commission also will be there. Okay, because he also have to sustain life, he cannot do any charity. After this, when this dealer is selling to the public, there will be again VAT. Who will levy it? It is state government will levy. Okay, this is the process you should know. First, crude oil price, next processing, next freight charges, next when you are selling excise duty to the dealer, next dealer commission, next dealer commission means he will add his money amount to the whatever. If he bought for 100 rupees, he will add 3 rupees as his commission for 1 liter. And when he is selling to the public, there will be VAT. Okay, after going all through this price change, it becomes 105 now. Okay, now we'll take the example of Delhi. In Delhi, what is the price now? The Delhi is 96 rupees. Okay, how this 96 rupees is there? Take example, base price. What is this base price? It is a crude oil price. Okay, what is this? How much? It is 37 rupees. I am not adding any, actually exactly 37.29 rupees if you want to know the exact price. And what about the freight charges? It is 0.36 rupees. Okay, if you add up, how much it will become? 37.65 rupees, right? What is this 37.65 rupees? It is a, what I said, it is a price charged to the dealer. Okay, now what happened? Excise duty. Excise duty should be paid. That is how much? 32.90. 32.90 rupees you have to pay. Okay, so totally how much it will cost? 5 5 0 7 70.55 rupees, right? Okay, now the dealer will add his commission. How much he will add commission? It is 3.80 paisa he has added. So total cost it will be 5 3 4 7 74.35 rupees. Okay, with the including dealer commission now. Okay, when he is selling this thing to the retailer, okay, then the VAT will come and add here. What is VAT here? It is imposed by the state government. It depends upon the state to state. Okay, it is 3 1. So what is here? It is 6 6 6 9. So this is a retail price that consumer will pay, means you and me will pay. So what do you understood here? Here there will be a base price, another freight price, freight charges, and price charged to the dealer, and excise duty, and dealer commission, and VAT charged by the state government. Totally if you add up, it will come to the 105 to 96 rupees at the current petroleum prices. Okay, the same with the diesel also. Now what this Didi is saying, that she is arguing that PM, you should reduce taxes on petrol and diesel. Yes, how much the central government is levying the taxes? It's excise duty. See, if you see this, dealer is getting, for how much dealer is getting? 37.65 rupees. If you add dealer charges, that is 3.80 rupees. 5 and 4 and 1 and 4. So actually the the petroleum cost should be 41 rupees for Indian public without any taxes. Without any taxes, with 0% tax, okay, it should be 41 rupees. But actually असली में कितना है 105 rupees or 96 rupees it is there. Means remaining, if you remove 41 in this, 4 and 6, okay, so 64 rupees is only taxes. Okay, here in Delhi, if you remove 41 rupees, 55 rupees is only taxes. So 44, 60, the taxes range is 64 to 55 rupees. Okay, so who is charging this much taxes? That is central government and the state government also. Okay, central government in terms of excise duty and state government in terms of VAT. Okay, if you take the Delhi's example, the central government is charging 32 rupees and the state government is charging 33 rupees or 23 rupees almost. Okay, so instead of Mamata asking for Modi to reduce, first if the Mamata make this thing as zero, okay, then people may get at least, if not for 41 rupees, they may get for 73 rupees, right? Compared to 100 rupees, 73 rupees is fine. Mamata can make it zero, but Mamata will not do that. Okay, no state CM will not do that. They want center to reduce it. How come it possible? Because why they don't do it? Why central government should reduce? Why state government is not willing to reduce? Because both will not reduce because of revenues. Okay, this is the highest revenues they can get from this petroleum, alcohol and all, right? From this they can actually get highest revenues. Now you say they are getting these revenues. Is it indirect taxes or direct taxes? Definitely it is a indirect taxes, because here VAT is there and another is excise duty. These are the indirect taxes, right? If these indirect taxes increasing, who will be affected? Yesterday only I have explained, if indirect taxes increases, who will be affected? Obviously it will be poor people and middle class people will be affected. Rich people will not be affected, because from 80 to 100 rupees, the 20 rupees is not a big deal for a rich guy. Okay, but it is a very big deal for the poor and middle class people. Okay, now you say means what? Poor and middle class means what? Obviously it is a informal sector which is going to affected, right? This informal sector means what? These people are working in informal sector only, right? Okay, so this informal sector means already they are earning very less wages. In that, again 20 rupees is increased in the their expenditure for fuel. Okay, if they are using 2 liters, that will become 40 rupees. 40 rupees is a big deal for a lower middle class or poor people. This 20 rupees he is not a big deal to the Mukesh Ambani, Adani, etc. Whoever is earning in crores of rupees or lakhs of rupees per month. See, and one more thing is, this informal sector, it depends upon what? It contributes to more than 50% of GDP. Okay, this informal sector, and it contributes to more than 93% of employment according to the economic survey 2017 and 18. Okay, now you say this informal sector to run, what is most important thing? That is transportation. Okay, and fuel. Okay, fuel is a lifeline for the economy. Anything you do, manufacturing thing, you need fuel. Okay, so when the fuel increases, here they are feeling the burden, and when here they are also feeling the burden, transportation. So they may tend to reduce this transportation, means what, their raw material may reduce, right? Because they may not import more raw materials because of increase in transportation cost, increase in fuel, so they may not do production also. If they don't do production, what happens? Unemployment rate will increase. And moreover, because agriculture products to come to the market depends upon the transportation only, right? It will not come by walk, you have to take them. So obviously the transportation cost will be faced by whom? By the farmers, if they are transporting these to the market, or by the middlemen who are transporting these from the farmers to the marketplace. Okay, what this middleman will do, he will come and sell it to the high price by including transportation cost, and like this that price will be transferred to the consumer by the retailer. Okay, so the agriculture products will, the prices of the agriculture products will increase. So if these prices increases, again who will be affected? Again poor people get affected. Already they are facing the burden of increase in fuel. Now again they will be facing the burden of increase in agriculture product prices. Okay, like this it will be having cascading effect in everywhere, and it will at last affect the poor and middle class people, not the rich people, because that is the speciality of indirect taxes. If indirect taxes are increased, poor and middle class people will definitely face burden a lot. I hope you now you have understood that what will actually determine the prices of petroleum and diesel. I am coming to the this article. See, this article I am not going to explain, because about this information and technology intermediary guidelines and digital code rules 2021, I have explained in the part 1 of June current affairs very extensively about this entire rules, and I have even discussed about the advantages and disadvantages, what are the issues actually, and I have even discussed about the LIC versus Punewala case. Okay, what the Supreme Court has said, and about the K. Puttaswamy case. Okay, how these laws will actually violate these two judgments, and about this safeguard. What is the safeguard? I have even given a question on this prelims question. Safe harbor. You can call it as safe harbor. I have already asked about this in that June part 1 current affairs questions, so please refer to it. It is very important because it's again it is in news. Coming to this COVID also, in June current affairs I have in detail discussed about this COVID, and I guess in editorial only, when I am discussing about the editorial, I have discussed about this COVID. Please do refer that also, because again saying the same thing will be waste of time. And coming to the service sector, see, service sector shrink since July 2020. Service sector contributes around 54% of the total GDP of India. Okay, now you can understand that the importance of service sector in India. If service sector doesn't grow, then India will definitely lose its economy. Its economic growth will fall. And the reason for the service sector for not growing is what is there in service sector? Education, banking, health, and storage, transportation, and etc. There are many other things like this, or you can say personal or community care services, so like that. So point is, now you say, since the COVID-19 came due to the lockdown restrictions, so on so on, does education sector shown any growth? Because everybody is now depends upon the e-learning. Okay, e-learning is also one services. This e-learning is benefited, you may say, by e-learning activities has increased. No, e-learning activities, how it will increase? Only 24% of the India's household has connectivity to the internet. Okay, how the e-learning will increase then? Because lack of internet. This is, I am not saying, this is NSS report 2017 and 18 said this. Okay, so this is not grown. And banking, how the banking sector will grow? Because of lockdowns, because of restrictions, and so on so on. What happened? The labor, our participation in the economy is reduced, so the income is reduced, so the savings rate will definitely will reduce. So banking lending rate also will reduce. Why? Because why the banking lending rate will reduce? Because of lockdown, low demand. Okay, the companies are not borrowing much to invest in the market, because there is lack of confidence in the market, and then many other reasons. Okay, so the banking activities also reduced. And what about the real estate? Okay, that also reduced. There are many, so everything has reduced. So everything has reduced. This, all this, especially you take hotels, restaurants, etc. All these things are reduced, right? Because of lockdown restrictions, they are not working anymore. Okay, so now only they started opening up. So they started working. Otherwise, for last 3 months, these restaurants, what you call hotels, everything were closed, right? Even in 2020, for 3-4 months, everything was closed. So it's a huge impact. So this is also closed. The only sector which has shown the growth is storage and transportation. Because transportation, why? For carrying oxygen we need transportation, for carrying patients we need transportation. Transportation was running. To carrying the essential goods items, we need transportation. Okay, so it was running. And storage means what? Because to store, what you call, food grains, we need storages. Because you cannot sell, because the demand is low, right? You cannot sell the all the food grains now. And to store the manufacturing products, we need storage. Because not everything is getting sold, right? So you have to store. So like this, the storage also increased. Storage services and the transportation services has shown the little bit growth, not that much growth, yes, little bit growth it has shown. So these are the reasons why the service sector shrinks. For the GDP to grow, for any country's GDP to grow, what are the three important things? That is primary sector, that is secondary sector, that is tertiary sector. This is nothing but service sector, this is nothing but manufacturing sector, this is nothing but agriculture, mining, quarrying, etc. Okay, because of lockdown restrictions and every other things, mining, quarrying, everything was impacted. Agriculture was allowed to continue because of food security is very very important. And manufacturing sector, obviously, because of lockdown restrictions. And what else? Demand is not there now. Why demand is not there? Because money flow into the economy has reduced, demand is not there. And the increase in labor cost now. Okay, labor cost has increased because wages, the labor is demanding more wages. Because of the reverse migration, people went back to their places. There are no migrants in the cities now. Okay, who can do the labor work? So the with the less amount of labor, they have to do the production. So automatically the production cost will increase. Because this less amount of labor, the demand will increase. So like this. And now the tertiary sector, why it has increased, we know that because of all these three reasons now we have experienced 2020 to 2021 GDP contracted to minus 7.3%. Coming to the OPEC, what is this OPEC? OPEC is a organization which produces 40% of the crude oil in the world. Okay, the members of this OPEC, that though they are 13 members, 13 countries, they produce 40% of the crude oil, and they have around 75% of the total reserves of the crude oil. Which are these countries? That is, we all know. First, Saudi Arabia, we all know it. And next, we all know it should be Iran and Iraq. And next one, UAE. You should definitely remember all these names because it is very much in news, and this is also one of the reasons why the prices are increased in India. And next one is Libya. Next Algeria. Next one Angola. Next one Congo. Next one Equatorial Guinea. And next one Venezuela. Next one Nigeria. Ninth one. 10th one Gabon. And 11th one Kuwait. And 12th one so these are the 13 countries, because 1 2 3 4 5 6, this is 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 13 countries which actually rules the oil production. Okay, what they do, they will come and they will meet that they will, if oil prices are reducing, they will come to an agreement to cut the production. Okay, they will reduce the production. If the production reduces, what happens? Supply will reduce. When supply reduces, what happens? The prices of the petroleum crude oil will increase. Okay, like this they will maintain the prices of the world. Okay, recently in 2020 April, they have decided to cut the production to increase the prices of the crude oil. So this is how this OPEC will function, but you should definitely remember the countries, which are the countries are part of this OPEC. Coming to raise in tea imports is worrying. Actually, why the tea imports are increasing in India. Okay, the first reason is in 2020, right? Okay, there are no migrants, laborers to work in the tea plantation. So what happened? The labor cost increased. When the labor cost increases, automatically that cost will be translated to the tea price, retail price. So the retail price increase, so the imports increases. Why? Because import tea is cheaper. Okay, you may ask, see, we are importing from other countries, right? How come it will be cheaper? Because excise duty will be there on it. Okay, when the excise duty or custom duties will be there, will be imposed, so they will become costly. But it is not the case in India, because the government of India actually have a policy of 100% duty free tea. Okay, 100% duty free means if the 1 kilo tea is 10 rupees in Sri Lanka, in India also it is 10 rupees. There won't be any duty on this. That's why the tea imports are increasing. This is one of the reason. And the second reason is this 100% duty free tea. So that's it for today. Thank you.